महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महादेवमुदं शिरसा नमामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि.
Talking of order, the human being is pervaded by another order. Besides this physical order pervades your physical body, is within this order. Then the biological and physiological called prana. In fact, this is called sutratma. Totally speaking, it's called sutratma. Like sutra, like a string in a garland of beads. One string passes through, holding them all together. Similarly here, a string-like, sutra-like, making every cell alive, every organism alive. And therefore, it's called sutratma. An order. Then we said the most critical order, psychological order. Before going to the next order, one more thing I think I should say here. These days, this unconscious is processed through therapy. A person goes to a therapist and goes on talking to the therapist. Therapist is someone who has undergone therapy and who has undergone hours and hours of therapy and who is very well informed of the whole thing, because therapy is a method. You can't just read in books. You subject yourself to therapy. Like Vedanta teaching. You subject yourself to the teaching. Then only you can teach. Otherwise it doesn't work. So this therapy, what they do, the one who undergoes therapy talks to the therapist at a given time, very professional. You go at the time of appointment, go and you get out. There is no interaction in between. Professionally, you deal with the person because it's necessary. Then as you go on talking to the person, because you pay, the payment is a part of it. It's important you pay. Then only you will talk. Because you are paying the person to talk. So that you can talk and he's supposed to listen. He or she is supposed to listen. The more you keep talking, because you are paid and you want to talk as much as you can because you are paying so much money, you keep talking. So there is a professional trust is there. Etiquette is there. You are supposed to trust the person. Then you keep talking over a period of time. Then you begin, the transference takes place. You begin praising the therapist, how wonderful he is, he's Indra Chandra. So he is wonderful, more than what the person is. So you begin praising. This is called positive transference. Now I can use the word, because that is their language. I am not using my word, their language I am talking, called positive transference. Then the next transference comes. Positive transference is a setup. Then comes the other one, and that is, then you begin blaming the fellow. Why you didn't do this to me? You don't care. You're taking money from me. You don't care. If you care, why should you take money? If I don't pay money, you won't talk to me. Because in the process they develop a certain relationship and trust. Where there is trust, this transference takes place. What you would have talked to your father, your mother, you would blame this fellow. He becomes father, mother, he or she becomes father, mother. So you blame the person. That is the time when you shift the therapist. You switch the therapist. So when you feel like switching the therapist, that is the time you should persist with the therapist. Because that is the time, the payoff. All this time you paid money to this person and talked to this person for this kind of a thing to happen. And then going to another therapist means it will take another 3 years for getting this transference. Transference is the way to process the pain, the hurt, etc. And the therapist has to validate you. Generally, he validates you. There is nothing wrong with you because it is true. But the person doesn't believe so. It is true that there is the child there. There is innocence there. And he goes on validating, there's nothing wrong with you. If I were you, I would do the same thing. There is nothing wrong with you and all that. He goes on telling. Still his validation. Also, there are other adult issues also. There are adult issues because this child controls adult. Child controls adult. Whole adult life is full of child control. This unconscious controls. And there and varieties of attitudes, and then you are dealing with people, etc. All these are controlled by the child. Don't think the child is somewhere sitting there. It is very active. In fact, it is very reactive. Actively reactive. And therefore, so that person has to validate your action. and he validates your action. Then his validation is credible only to the degree you validate the person, correct? The one who undergoes therapy has to validate the person. And therefore, what credibility you give to that person, only to that extent his validation is credible. You can understand now. So you cannot validate because you have got transference to that fellow. Therefore, you are not going to accept all that he does. He says also now and then, I regret, I'm sorry, so I didn't mean it, and then all this goes on. Therefore, because he is a human being, he is also fallible. So when he is fallible, naturally, then all that he says is not totally acceptable to you. Therefore, you will project everything on the person. And therefore, the therapy is as good as you validate the therapist. And the therapist's capacity to evoke trust in you means, in terms of the therapist, he should be able to receive that trust from you, from the one who undergoes this therapy. From that person should receive maximum trust. And then his capacity to help you is big. But that's not always likely to happen because he is fallible. Therefore, we need an infallible therapist. The infallible therapist is only Ishvara, correct? He is the only therapist, both male therapist and female therapist. Father, mother. So he is the most infallible because you don't say God is infallible. If God is infallible, if you say, then you will you will ask for something and then God doesn't give, then he becomes fallible. You don't say God is infallible. That is wrong. In fact, you should say the infallible is God. That is understanding. The one who is infallible is God. See the difference. God is infallible is a judgment. The infallible is God, is understanding, is your appreciation of Ishvara. The infallible is God because every order is a manifestation of Ishvara. Order means the infallibility. The infallibility lies in the order. Because I understand Ishvara in the form of orders, Ishvara, the infallible is Ishvara. Because order means infallibility. This happens because there is a cause for it. I may not know, but there is a cause for it. So thus you find all the way the infallibility because of order. Therefore, you have a super therapist in Ishvara because of your own awareness of Ishvara, understanding, knowledge of Ishvara. This is Ishvara. And this knowledge that the Ishvara is manifest in the form of Jagat. Jagat consists of orders that pervade me also. And therefore, in the form of psychological order, Ishvara is a super therapist for me. In his view, I am always validated. I can never surprise Ishvara. And in his view, I cannot fail because he knows the cause and why I am now like this. And therefore, there is no question of my surprising Ishvara. Therefore, my own knowledge of Ishvara makes a super therapist who is available all the time, not at a particular time. There is no payment involved, no time involved, and therefore I can always remain validated. I remain validated by Ishvara. In the eyes of Ishvara, that I am validated. Whatever I am validated. In the process, I welcome all the emotions as they arise. I welcome them. And I don't sit in judgment. Then I discover space. That space is the Bhakta. There is a space of the Bhakta. The space of the person and the role. I said, that space, the space that obtains when one plays a role, and between the role and the person there is space. The space provided by self-awareness. And here also the self-identity is I am related to Ishvara, always connected to Ishvara as an individual and total. I am blessed by Ishvara all the way. The unconscious itself is a blessing. It is there to bless me, to make me survive, keep the pain away from the child. That is what that avarana was. And so until this is accepted, now that will control me. The more I accept the outcome, whatever that comes out, I accept it as it is all in order. Then I become sane totally. I am in order. This question, why me, doesn't exist anymore. So I am in order. And everyone else also is in order. Because given the background to the person cannot be any different. Therefore, everybody is in order. And thus I have, this is the relaxation, final relaxation for the person. And guilt and hurt have no sticking capacity, cannot be around. There is no support. There is nothing there to support how long it can be. And therefore it has to go away. It cannot remain forever. And therefore, kimaham sadhuna karavam, kimaham papam akaravam iti. Savidwan ete atmanagspurnate. It's the most beautiful thing I have seen in the Upanishad. This one thing. So this one thing, there are so many beautiful things, but this is the most beautiful thing that is said there. We're talking about infinite, limitless, etc. Relating to your life, it is being talked there. So the one who knows the Vidwan, sa vidvanete atmanaggas prunate, ubeke vaishayete atmanaggas prunate. So, kimaham sadhuna karavam, kimaham papam akaravam iti. Kim sadhu na karavam, sadhu karma na karavam. How come that I did not do the right thing? Sadhu karma kim aham na karavam. Why I did not do the thing, right thing? Kim aham papam akaravam iti. How come I did the wrong thing? I told you, this omission and commission. Upanishad. Savidvanete atmanagspranute. So these two, atmanam spranute, they are not separate from the atma. The feelings are accommodated and they get obliterated because they become mithya. Understand? They are not satyam anymore. They don't have a sticking capacity. The glue is gone. You become a Teflon person, Teflon coated person. And nothing sticks. There was a Don in Staten Island, in America. He's a mafia Don. So many cases, and against him the prosecution would bring. And every time he will come out. Nothing sticks. And therefore, nothing sticks, and therefore, and then he was called Teflon Don. Mr. Gotti, Teflon Don. Non-sticking, the pan and all that. Finally, he was fixed. But not here. This is really, there is no coating here. Teflon is the nature of you. And therefore, so this is entirely different. But I say, this guilt and hurt have no staying power. They have to go away. I'm not afraid of them anymore. As they come, as I look at them, I welcome them, and thus I am free.
Mahaganapatin manasa smarami Mahadeva mudam shirasa namami Mahaganapatin manasa smarami. Bharata desha hitaya Kuru sevam tum Kuru sevam tum Kuru sevam tum Kuru sevam.